in to assist Savita ma'am, and I'll be asking you to unmute yourself and ask the questions. And the order of events shall be introduction and then the session between Professor Savita and Kiran sir, and then we'll have the Q&A and then the voting time. So without further ado, let's move straight into the introduction. Gian Meister of Future Workplace, an HR advisory and research firm, had said, AI will augment HR and give HR time to work on more strategic business issues. The opportunity is to use AI to streamline HR manual processes and provide a more consumer-grade service to the employees. The world of HR is going through serious disruption. The use of AI, ML, and a host of other digital tools are transforming the landscape and setting trends for better innovation. PeopleStrong is a forerunner in such technological advancements and have been writing the new code of work since 2005. A very good evening to one and all present here, faculty members, alum, and my dear friends. Welcome to our webinar series, ConeXus, Connecting Business with Innovation. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Kiran Kumar, founding member and chief of global markets, PeopleStrong. Mr. Kiran Kumar is an entrepreneur to the core who believes in challenging conventional wisdom, charting new paths, and breaking new horizons. Post his double bachelor's from IIM New Delhi, he joined Addison Communications for a period of 3 years. However, his entrepreneurial spirit drove him to think about how to write a new code of work. Armed with an MBA from NMIMS Mumbai, he has been instrumental in building PeopleStrong ground up, starting from its Mumbai office. Currently serving as the chief sales officer for PeopleStrong, he has managed multiple aspects of building a business, including transitions and business development. An avid writer and speaker on various HR forums, Mr. Kumar is a strong proponent of advancement in technology for a better future. We welcome you, sir, and look forward to an enriching session with you.
Thanks, Anindya. Very nice to be amongst all of you. 157 of you on the screen do scare me, even if I'm not standing in front of you. So apologies if I will say something really out of the context, but that's what I really believe in. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you very much, sir. The
nice to meet
moderator for today's session. Thank you very much, sir. The moderator for today's session is Dr. Savita Mohanty, Professor, Xavier University, Bhubaneswar. Professor Savita Mohanty has dedicated more than 33 years of her life molding the young managers of tomorrow. After pursuing her MBA from XLRI, she started her career with Wipro and was fortunate to be a part of the birth of the IT giant it is today. Thereafter, she turned an entrepreneur and set up a manufacturing unit for Dabur to make their entire range of hair oils and tooth powders. Professor Mohanty has been associated with XIMB since 1987. She has been leading the placements since 2005 and is currently the Associate Dean of Career Advisory Services. Her interests lie in the domain of HRM, L&D, and soft skill development. A senior professor, a guide, a leader, and a lovable person. She dons many hats. We welcome you, ma'am, and would like to request you to take the session forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anindya. So, welcome once again, Kiran. It's great to have you here with us. And so, I'd like to start the session with asking you that, with your vast experience, can you just share with students and about how technology is changing the role of privacy, ethics, and service delivery models in HR?
Sure, Savita ma'am. Well, again, thank you once again to everyone. Anindya, a very great introduction there. I think it's a straight away hitting on the face kind of a question, so a tough one for the first one. So I'll just give you some context around from a PeopleStrong standpoint as well. So when we started this organization Back in 2006, we were approaching this like any other HR folks, right? So we thought services was the most integral element that was required, from for the employees and for a lot of other stakeholders. But 3 years into building the company, we very soon realized it is technology which is actually the biggest game changer, that we can ride on. And we started building technology frameworks from 2008 as we speak. As we stand today, we serve close to about 300 plus customers, almost touching 1 million users, which almost means that this is a kind of scale where a consumerization kind of a wave has taken over HR technology usage, right? And when you get into that kind of a stage, you just don't think technology as an enabler. Definitely, technology is an enabler. So I'll take some examples. So we serve one of the largest customers that we have is Future Group. So if you go to any big bazaar, any person who in the big bazaar is helping you do the shopping, the billing counter people are all important stakeholders in the organization. About a year and a half ago, they were mostly dependent on the store manager for even their basic information, which meant how many leaves they are supposed to be entitled for, what is their insurance limits, what are their PFs, are they getting even deducted at the right place, the right time. All these base informations, which they were supposed to be accounted for, were there. It was not that it was not there, but it was not available for them to see on themselves, right? And for every small thing, they have to be dependent on a store head or a store HR manager for all these basic information, which almost have become like rights, for these people. Now, ever since we've gone them, I think more than anyone else, it is these 70,000 employees who use these products very, 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 very strongly. They are able to really take benefits because the moment payroll is processed, there is a ping that goes onto their device saying that this is the amount that has been credited. It looks like a small thing, but imagine for a company which is about 2,000 stores, which have penetrated into multiple pin codes in the country. And that small person, the last guy standing there, for him or her, this is a very important critical information. So we were able to enable them. A lot of their training and learning requirements are now available onto their handheld devices and stuff like that. So this example that I'm talking about is the advantage of technology, right? But having said that we create technology, there are a lot of other problems that comes along the way as well, right? Which includes elements like privacy, elements of securing that information and stuff like that. So what we have worked on is total encryption from a data standpoint. So there is a lot of ease of use, but that does not mean that the data is available to in an open format for everyone, right? So it is in one of the most secured, highest grade tier 4 data center in Amazon Web Services, AWS. All of the data is completely encrypted. That's on the security part of it. I'm sure a lot of you are also learning, and even the world is learning about the new upcoming regulations in GDPR. And we follow complete GDPR privacy requirements as well. So, which means, I'll give you an example. We have a recruitment technology platform where there are profiles that come in to the system. Now, once the data comes in, there is an element of an approval that we have to take from the candidate so that we can ensure that the data that we are taking is only for this recruitment purposes, which also means that the data that we would collect, it could be assessment data, it could be their salary data, it could be lot many other data that we would be using during the entire course of recruitment. We can't share this outside, definitely, and we can't be using this for any other means or purpose other than what the user has given a rights to. So a short answer, trying to conclude, what I was trying to focus is technology is the big differentiator, but along with the security and privacy are the new guardrails on which the technology needs to be created. Because without it, it would not give trust to anyone, for that matter, for them to come on adopting the product. So we are rated at about 98% for adoption, both on Google Store as well as the Android Store. We are downloaded by about 300,000 users with a cumulative rating at about 4.2 on both the app stores. So that gives me a confidence that what we have done till now, again till now, looks like to be in the right place. That does not mean that we don't have to evolve this as we go forward. So all our ears and eyes are in with our customers, with evolving guidelines on that market, and how do we make that available to them. So a long answer maybe, but yeah.
Oh, great, lovely. So in we, as you mentioned in the beginning, that we're all learning things. So in this today's new work world, because we are also new work models that we've come into, what do you think are what do you feel are the pillars of the new code of work? Especially, if we focus in the Asian context, what do you think would be the stimulus, as well as what would you think would be the roadblocks or hindrances in incorporating this in our work or in a change?
Sure. So, Dr. Savita, you would know some of the elements, you would have seen during the ERP implementation. I was part of the team which implemented SAP across the board. And, you would share the same sentiment with me when we were implementing those ERPs. Moving any data out of that ERP or bringing any social data into that particular ERP was a very Herculean effort, which meant a significant amount of coding, a significant amount of change. Those days APIs were not there, but whatever means and uses that we had to bring in the data in, all that was a big problem, right? Now, what I'm trying to focus on is for many period of time, HR technology or any ERP related technology have always remained focusing inside. I think times come, and ever since the advent of cloud and advent of APIs and data exchanges, I think you can't have a system which is actually closed now. So you can't have a walled garden where you can't share an information and exchange information on free. So it has to be an open and connected platform if it is supposed to be along with the new code of work, right? That is one. Second, the user is changing at a very rampant pace. So we can't expect, and I'm sure 150 of my friends on this call, you expect them to come and do a particular transaction because it is to be done. That is not the way it is going to be, right? So there is even a teacher-child relationship has changed throughout the years, right? So during our time, it was mostly a stick, but now it's more of a cohesive an exchange of ideas that happens, right? So going forward as well, you can't get people to just come onto the product and do a transaction because there is a fear of a salary cut or a rating not being given on time, and all that is not going to work, right? So you will have to ensure whatever you're building is agnostic. So we were experimenting something in our labs. Now you can mark your attendance through your smartwatch as well. So the moment you get into a perimeter, there is no one going to stand on that long queues marking their attendance. Gone are those days, right? You just walk in, the watch detects in what's your location you are in. The moment you are in that GPS coordinate, there is a pop that comes up on the watch or on the device or on a phone device, and you just mark your attendance right up there, right? That's the way really the end user is going to be adopted, right? Gone are the days when you had those long learning platforms. I mean, if you look at the stage here, nobody's worried about attendance, right? Everybody is focusing on a free exchange of information that is available. Now imagine that you don't have to come to meet.google. You can do that on a learning device on your phone. And imagine this is getting auto recorded and it is available to you just like Netflix. So you can use it the way and the time when you really want to use it, right? So it is really the user which is going to come into the center of all of this, right? And that is the biggest differentiator, at least the mega differentiator that has started happening in the last 4 to 5 years, and that's where adoption is becoming a very important element part of it, right? Apart from that, it is also about transparency of data, right? So we have a feature by which we can store all your information, but the element that we spoke in the previous question on how do we ensure that it is transparent, along it being secure and it meeting the privacy requirements as well. Now, those are the elements that defines the new code of work from where people will start coming into it. I'll give you an example. Ever since COVID has happened, so you all would know the Arogya Setu app, right? Now, the Arogya Setu app was created by Government of India, and what it does basically is to tell what is your proximity with another patient who's there in COVID, right? Now, imagine when organizations are opening up, right? And when the workforce will come back, they also need the same support in their work ecosystem as well. So we are trying to merge that data along with our attendance information, along with their perimeter information, so that it can really, and it merges the questions that is asked by the Arogya Setu app, almost giving you a real-time information on what is your real risk. Should you be going to office or should you not be going office? Now, all this was developed in a matter of about a week, maybe less than a week, right? Now, you can do that only when you are having a very strong foundation. So you can't say today now, okay, it's a good problem. Okay, let me go back onto my coding people. Let me figure out what's the code that needs to be written. All that is now outdated, right? People have moved on to software as a service, what we call as SaaS. Then you have platform as a service, which means you can build ready-built platforms on top of a layer of technology on your own, right? And I'm just happy to share that these are the ways we are trying to help organizations to move as well onto the new code of work. So it's very aggressive, by the way, very challenging as we move from one stage to another. But those are the kind of things that are happening really on the new code of work.
So we have to stay ahead of the things.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, today we are finding that there's a trend of, there's a strike on the kind of hierarchies that we have, and employees are also demanding a very democratic workplace. So can you just share your thoughts on what cultural changes or anticipated shifts which might take place in handling this?
Right. So, again, I'll slightly go back in history. I think hierarchies, and, if you look at the regular pyramidal structures that were there, I think a lot of that came from, the one of the largest organizations in the first place, right? So, which were military organizations. They were the first formal organizations that humans came together, or human settlements that way, right? Now,
inherited by the British, from the British.
Given by the British, right? Now, and those were the same things that were again imbibed, in the organization as well. What that meant was that, there will be one CEO, he might have a council of 7-8 people, they might have a layer of 40-50 managers, and then the rest of the organizations follow under them. And in most of the places, by the way, the trickle of the decision is coming from top to down, right? Trickle of the information, trickle of the decision as well. There are a lot changing now on the world, right? So if you look at a large organization, you can't expect, the decision-making parameter exactly follow this culture, right? Now, of late, what we are seeing is a lot of network-based culture. So there is no hierarchy now. Hierarchy is getting changed into something called as network. Now, what that network means is you have an organizational objective. You take that organizational objective. You have a fixed time to solve that organizational objective. Let's say take it 3 months, right? You go back and pick out, okay, what are the skills that are required for this objective to be achieved in the stipulated time of about 3 months, right? Now all of this is happening real time. Decisions are being taken in a quick go, right? Now all these things are getting smudged. So everybody on that network, by the way, just like we have about 153 people, everybody is on the same tech platform, right? There is no differentiation in terms of who is playing what role, right? You and me are on the video, there are people who are on mute, but predominantly connected on the same technology platform on the same level, right? If we were in an auditorium, we would be sitting either on a higher pedestal, and there will be rest of the people who would be sitting on chairs, which would be following through, right? Now, that is what exactly is happening to hierarchical structures as well. Everybody is coming onto the same level playing ground, and it is actually network organizations which are going to be the organizations of future. There will be organizations would be driven by say 7 or 8 top objectives. Decision making would be very, very decentralized. It would be empowered to even the last person standing, if that person is actually focusing on what is the right outcome that needs to be done to achieve that particular objective, right? And if you look at technology like what we are on today are the elements that are really going to support the changes that are going to happen. So if you there is a concept called objective and key results. So the classical performance management, by the way, which really used to aid the hierarchical decision making, that is also changing. So everybody is now saying that, okay, tell me what's my objective, tell me what are the key results that I'm supposed to achieve, tell me what is the team that I have to do, and tell me how I can create a cross-cultural context of interacting with them and really moving them to the desired outcome. So a lot is changing on the ground, by the way.
Yeah, and now we're moving towards remote HR, tech implementation, working, remotely.
Yes.
So, what do you feel are the challenges that are there, and and also, is India ready for that?
I think we have a very different way of solving problems. So if you asked me 40 years ago, was India ready for the mobile revolution? By the looks of the penetration of optic cables, everybody would have said that no, India is not ready, right? But India jumped the fixed line revolution by jumping on mobile telephony. And I think it is pretty much the same situation if you ask me from a work from home situation as well, right? I'm based out of Bangalore. The classic traffic challenges that Bangalore has. Ever since the lockdown has been lifted, in spite of that, there is no traffic on the road. Now, what that means is an absolute clear adoption on how people have moved on to a work from home kind of situation. So India and Indians, by the way, have an element to using new technology. We are ahead always of the curve because we are tagged as a developing country. So which is good about it, I feel, because the moment we call it ourselves as developed, I think we will stop developing. So it's good that we are known as developing as a country, and we'll keep evolving. So I think there is a significant shift that is happening. I mean, even if you look at technologies, the way we are changing. I'll take one example here. So we have a platform called Zippy, and before the lockdown started, we were exchanging close to about 40,000 message exchanges every day on that particular platform. And ever since COVID, and after the first 2 weeks of COVID lockdown, we are almost touching close to about 5 lakh message exchanges every day. 5 lakh message exchanges on a platform which is very seamlessly connected to Microsoft Teams, G Suite, or platforms like Meet. People are able to assign tasks. So if you and me are on that platform, you can remind tasks for yourself. You can create a group where you, me, Anindya, can be a group. You can say that, Kiran, these are the 3 tasks that you're supposed to complete, and you can give me a task timeline as well. You don't have to go to your email platform always to get reminded what is that I told Kiran that he's supposed to finish. You can just go onto that platform and you can have a chat on that task itself. So it's really mind blowing because you are for the first time converging task and conversations together in real time mechanism. There is also a bot for assistance. What that means is you can ask a lot of questions to the bot, right? Okay, what are the trending learning sessions that my MBA batch is doing? So it will come back to you saying that, hey, it looks like, in the previous batch, these were the courses that were attended by 150 of them and they got this rank in your class, right? So automatically, like Netflix of sorts, it's pushing you content by telling what are the kind of contents that you should consume, right? Those are the kind of technologies that we are creating, and by the sheer number that I said, from 40,000 to about 5 lakh, it really talks about how quickly we are adopting on these volumes, by the way. I'll also try to pivot from here that this trend I'm not just seeing in India, by the way. I'm seeing this happening across Southeast Asia, which is again a developing belt. So we have customers based out of Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. They're just getting onto this tech platform like nobody's business, right? So that adoption is happening across. So the classical work from home, I think people have got mastery to. I think now they're going on to the next stage and they are saying that, okay, tell me, how do I become more productive now?
Correct. So I think we were talking about that when we were chatting also about working from home, but now working from home is virtually becoming like 24/7 for people, right? And so how can organizations help avoid burnout and also increase and retain employee engagement? Because they're far away and yet they belong to us. Integration with culture, the other softer aspects of business or of an organization.
Right, ma'am. So I think it's a very important question that you have touched upon, and I did touch upon this topic. I did a webinar a week ago with one of our board members on mental health, by the way. And actually, more than an answer, it is a request. I believe I'm talking to the HR program, students in the HR program, right?
Yes, yes.
There is a huge amount of responsibility to this community now. Of really taking care of. So I was giving an example. There are only about 1% of the overall population which gets really affected by mental health issues, right? And these are the times which really becomes very pressurizing. There is a significant social isolation, by the way. There is an increased amount of fear. What is going to happen to my job? There is a very increased amount of balance that people have to create on what am I supposed to do when and all that. And HR has a very difficult task cut out now in really going to the levels to figure out, saying that is the employee really being taken care of, and by really meaning it, right? And at that time I was talking about that particular topic because of Sushant Singh Rajput's situation, because nobody knew, right? Now it is important that how HR people can really understand these smaller hairline cracks that are getting developing in any kind of interaction that way, right? And what can be done about this. So there is a significant amount of responsibility. So on our product, I'll just talk about an example again. What we have done is we have merged it with a couple of other medicine services available. We can give a single sign-on. We've gone to organizations and we are saying that, okay, this is our way of really offering that help. And you can just take this subscription. What that means is that it can have a real-time login via PeopleStrong tech platform to that telemedicine provider, and they can actually help for any support that is required. And their privacy and all that information would be absolutely be taken care of, and nobody is going to worry about that. But people really don't want to bring these conversations to the surface, right? So there has to be a way of helping them out, but at the same time remain subtle, in really not talking about so loud that people fear to come out to that. And that's where we feel technology is the biggest differentiator. Keeping privacy in mind, what we are also trying to do is we're trying to merge this data with some work pattern information as well. So information like attendance, information like work outcome, information like the request of doctor services and all that, right? And we're trying to create a data model around it, which can really be surfaced to organizations to say that, hey, you know what, there is a problem. It may not be a mental problem or a mental health problem or a stress problem, but there is a problem where these teams don't seem to be interacting with each other, right? We don't see, so we will not go and read their messages. I use this statement very cautiously because people feel that I'm trying to, really spy them. This is not spying. This is consolidated, aggregated data that we will be studying so that it can make some meaningful information and can really help the users to support that. Now, all this technology are actually very nascent, but the request for this group at large is that if you bring this to mainstream, there can be a very big change that we can bring out on the system, or out on the ecosystem in the next 4 to 5 years. And it is very, very important. And I think it is not just this situation, but I think the world is going to become far more competitive. It is going to have elements of isolation, definitely. If not this, there is something else that would come. I'm not trying to paint a grim picture, but what I'm trying to say to a bunch of people out there is to say, really pick up this subject and master this. And you can't do this without bringing technology into the mid. You can't bring this by not really understanding people. But that is where this whole thing has to be looked into a very new light altogether.
I just want to get back to PeopleStrong, and Gartner has recognized you as the most preferred human capital management provider or vendor in Asia. So, what exactly is it, according to you, that sets you apart from your competitors?
Right, sure. So, one thing is stay as close to the customer. What that means is, if you look at again, back when you would have, when you were setting up that factory, for Dabur, for that matter, when you would have bought technology, there was an original equipment manufacturer from where you're buying a technology, and you had a third-party implementation person who had some or the other skill set to implement that technology. Classically, for the last 25, 30 years, that's how technology markets have been driven, right? We took very fundamental decisions. We said we will not try to change that. What we will do is we will get in front of the customer and we will do our own implementations for our customers. I think this is one big reason, one single biggest reason why our customers like us, and they've been really keeping us on the top. And so much so, they have been really tracking our growth very closely and saying that, Kiran, looks like you're going to grow to this level, and now you will have to bring in a third-party implementation to support yourself. Now, the simple answer to that question is we are saying no, we're not going to bring a third-party implementation provider, because what we're trying to do is now do the second level of game of really enabling the end customer to teach them to support themselves. So we have started a certification program through which we have, on every implementation that we do, we certify 7 to 10 people in HR, IT, finance, and other allied functions to get certified on using the tech platform. And by the way, they don't have to code. They just have to, if they conceptually understand HR, it is very easy for them to manage the end-to-end part of it. So the whole idea is, how do we take self-service really to them, rather than making it difficult for them to manage? And I think these two are some very big, reasons why people like us, apart from the other reasons that I've already told you about the mobile platform and all the other stuff. So I'm not repeating myself, but these are the other two reasons why. people really like us, and we're getting those desired ratings. But yeah, I still think there is a lot to be done again. The work is not done. I think there is still a lot more.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
always something more.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll ask one last question before I open up to the students to ask you questions. Post now we are all also in the phase of reopening and post COVID lockdown. And so, what do you think are the challenges that organizations are facing in planning for this opening? Because of course, there's a lot of uncertainty still. But given whatever parameters that we have, what do you think are the challenges that organizations are facing, and what could be the possible ways of handling it in this reopening?
I will not give a technological answer to this because I believe
No,
technology is an enabler, in this case. At the very core of this is an element of trust that is there. And when I was trying to answer that question about hierarchies and network structures, I think organizations have to now become comfortable that they have hired people who are decent and who are aligned to a larger organizational agenda, and they should be the reason why we've hired them is that they will do some desired outcomes and stuff like that, right? So stop policing them, because I believe a lot of these organizations, or these walled organizations, were there just so that you can come in the right time, do your work for 8 9 hours, so that I can stand behind you and say that, okay, have you done this, have you not done this, really coach you, guide you, and all that. I think that the quicker the organizations understand this at a very philosophical and at a very deeper level of trust of human interaction, that would help them, right? Uh, Give other elements of ensuring uptime, ensuring people are performing, because you need to do, right? When you're running an organization, you're accountable for top line, bottom line, efficiency, and stuff like that, right? Leave that aspect to technology. And technologies are really evolving, not just us, lot many out there who are really evolving at a very fast pace, right? So get technology to do that job for you rather than figuring out a way to manually police people, right? I think this both together is the biggest differentiator, I feel. Because I feel that for the work that we do in India, I think there are a lot of advanced work that we do, but when it comes to adoption, there is a mindset that it takes for us to cross it over, right? So we have definitely shown mindset to do work from home, but have we shown really the mindset to really, bring in the trust level is the most, if you ask me, the single most important thing that people have to cross over, or organizations would have to cross over. It is that aspect of it. And I think the quicker they do, because they don't have a choice, I believe. Because now organizations would have people working for them from Goa, from Bangkok, from Kashmir, from anywhere. Hey, did you come on time? Did you do this? Did you not do that? They might be in a very much scenic way, beautiful place that they're sitting, but they're doing the job for you, right? Gig, by the way, the gig economy is going to come up very, very aggressively. My brother stays with me. He's already getting a request that, can you do a double shift because we like the work that you're doing, right? Now, so for one, so he's managing a large customer like Unilever, that's British, and he has a company. He has a new company that's coming up in Southeast Asia. So they are saying that, okay, can you manage both of them? So gig is really going to be out there, and you can't be doing a gig economy, if you're going to have the same old mindset. So it is really push that is really coming to the shove for really people to change. Technology is out there. I think that is the canvas where people have the advantage to make use of it.
Yes, and we have to move on and adapt.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
I think I'll hand over to Anindya, because I think I've said more than what
Thank
I'm
you.
sure the students would like to ask more questions. So,
Sure,
Thank
absolutely.
you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. That was a really insightful discussion. We have a lot of questions coming in. The first question is from Miss Aishwarya Mishra. Aishwarya, you can go ahead and mute yourself and ask the question, please.
Sure, Anandya. Thank you. Am I audible, everybody?
Yes,
yes.
you're audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Kiran. It was indeed a pleasure hearing from you about PeopleStrong. And I was reading about the new Code of Challenge awards that PeopleStrong hosted. And there was an array of startups, mid-sized enterprises, even large clientele. What I would like to know from you is that what was the qualities that led Genpact into winning this award? They won it for future readiness. So if you could just tell us that what are the unique HR practices that put them in the spot? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Aishwarya. By the way, it was not just HR. The new code of work was in a very larger context of things that we were looking at. So there were actually five elements that we had looked at, and I would not know the details of why Genpact was there, but I'll just tell you what were those five elements. Those five elements were productivity, experience, future readiness, and meaning at work. These were the four elements, that we were looking at when we were looking at new code of work, because these are really concepts that are hardly spoken out. When it really looks at organizations of the future, right? Genpact, being Genpact, it is one of the highest rated BPOs out there. I'm sure they've worked out a lot of elements from an overall analytics perspective on the way they look at productivity information. So that's how productivity was right out there. Experience from a perspective, the way they manage. The way we understood the way they manage their overall new employee onboarding. They almost give a virtual tour to the organization, to the potential candidate who gets onboarded. What that means is, a candidate is pretty much aware and understanding about what are the ways of working at Genpact and a lot of other finer details and stuff like that. Apart from the fact, the way they were able to create policies for developing their employees, because if you look at the overall ITS ecosystem, I think they were really way ahead of the curve in the way they were skilling up people, for the future readiness part of the elements. So it was not just an HR practice, to really sum it up. It was actually a combination of these three, four parameters. And when we brought in that data and the kind of support information that they were able to get in, that was phenomenal. And that's the reason we led them to do that. So it was a one-off kind of an exercise. So it was done over a period of about 4 months, where there was an extensive amount of data that was collected. There was an independent jury that we had brought in, so that there is no way PeopleStrong is connected to that. It is a PeopleStrong property though, but we had to keep it as transparent as possible. Otherwise, people usually say that, hey, looks like they've given it to their larger customers. It is not like that. So it is really working at that core where they were able to get this information across the board.
Thank you very much for that insightful answer, sir. Aishwarya, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next question comes from Mr. V. Sanket. Sanket, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Hi, ma'am. Hi, sir. Sir, during the current times, what dashboard does is very amazing, because it actually showcases all the relevant data instead of micromanaging employees, which is quite irritating. But yes, it actually presents the data in a very interactive manner. So my question would actually be, sir, with a very strong present and eyes on the future, what are the areas that would be what are the untapped areas where you would be focusing, where the company would be focusing? Because, sir, if we get to know about those areas, maybe we would do our homework and be ready for the future. And also, sir, my next question would be, sir, what are the skills as management student we need to pick up? Maybe God bless, we joined a successful company like yours. So what are the skills we need to learn, sir?
Sure, Sanket, very very relevant question, but I'll give you a very simple answer to it, by the way, and people just miss out the details of it. So if you look at, if I can use the word dashboards, analytics, are all very sexy words, right? You would be able to relate to that term much better. But what happens down at the ground, actually it is actually a very toiling work to get all these data converge itself and create. So I'm sure you would have studied relational database management, the core of data and the way data is brought together and stuff like that, right? So we have our own data modeling engine,
Yes,
so we have a very swanky looking dashboard. But when we go to organizations and ask them that you have this data for the last 6 years, they're like, last 6 years, I can't really comment. We can definitely talk about last 2 years. Okay, so the 2 years before that, who will that, where will that information be? Oh, that
yes,
would be with someone else, right?
yes, yes,
So what I'm trying to point to is that there is an absolute, a misnomer about data. Actually, people should have spoken about data way far much than dashboard. And if you get your base concepts right about data and how data needs to interact with multiple other platforms that gets created, that's the first fundamental win that you can do when you get a job and when you get on board somewhere. You can ask those basic questions, right?
yes,
I was doing a survey about a couple of years back. On an average, an HR organization uses about 33, 34 different applications, different vendors, different data structures, different data definitions.
yes, sir.
Now, you can just imagine, Sanket, how difficult it is going to have a dashboard around it,
Yes, sir. Yes,
right? Because all of them are absolutely non-relatable data sets, right? So the first thing that we said, we will work on at the brass tacks. We will create a very strong architecture for a data lake. What that means is that any data that comes in, it will have a pre-classification. It will be processed at a model level, and that's when it would be brought in. Now that has brought us to a level where, after the first 6 months of getting a customer live, we really are able to get back to them and saying that, hey, it looks like there is enough data for you. There is enough transaction for you. There is enough trends that we are trying to bring about in the information. And that's what the basic elements of the dashboards would want. And then we sit with them and understand what is the storyboard that you would want to see, right? So
yes,
I'm trying to create a gap here. So more than the dashboard, focus on the storyboard, right? I'll tell you what is a storyboard. Now, when you typically have an HR head, or if you would have your review with your boss, or if a CEO asks for a typical Monday meeting, right? They all
yes,
come prepared with some kind of readiness of wanting to look at that data. So there is a storyboard, right? Okay, tell me
yes,
what's the top line, tell me what's the bottom line, tell me the productivity, tell me this, tell me that. That is the storyboard. Focus on that storyboard. The dashboards will follow. So focus on that storyboard, focus on the data model and the data classifications part of it. I think if you're able to do that, I can guarantee that you can be a star performer in the first 2 years of your job. That I
yes,
think that people are missing out on that. I'll give you another funny anecdote. Even without doing this, people are asking me, can you predict the data for me? I'm like, how can I predict anything when I don't even have a base intelligence that is available on the system? So all that, classical, sorry to use the word MBA terms, I'm an MBA too. When I completed, when I came back, I realized that, the struggles are of a very different order.
yes,
Data sets are not getting updated, data are not talking to each other. So focus on that aspect. If you ask those basic questions very at the right first place at the right first time, I think you would be able to set your course in the right direction.
okay, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that answer, sir. The next question comes from Ms. Neha Kamath. Neha, can you unmute yourself and ask the question, please?
Yeah. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, Sneha.
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead, please.
Okay. A very good afternoon, a very good evening, everybody. I'm Sneha from XIMB. So, what I have observed is that the way we hire a CFO or any higher level management would be different from hiring the next software tester or the next technician. So, it becomes difficult, especially when we do it all when the hiring is virtual this year. So, how is Alt Recruit filling this gap over here?
Okay. I think you are ahead of your time, so that's the reason you asked a good afternoon. But any which way, it's a good evening, and it is a Friday evening. Nice question. All of this is completely technology, right? So definitely, if you are going to hire someone as a CFO, we're going to pay the person about 1 crore of a salary, vis-a-vis a software technician, where you're going to pay that person about 10, 12 lakhs per annum. The sheer financial element that is connected to the decision will make sure that you go through a deep dive conversation for a CFO hiring and a very standard hiring process for a software tester or a software implementer, right? On Alt Recruit, what we have done is we have taken a very tall promise. We said whatever is the hiring, the recruiter would not have to leave the Alt Recruit interface. What that means is you can almost enable almost everything: so assessments, psychometrics, video interviewing, real check on social profile. All that information is available right on the system. Within the system, you can carve out different level of processes for a CFO hiring and for a technology hiring as well. So a CFO hiring, say for an example, would have say 11 or 12 different rounds of interviews or interactions, right? A software technician guy would have, say, 6 rounds of interaction. So you can carve different processes for different levels of people who are coming to hire in you, right? And those are the levels that we've been able to bring in. The third thing that we have done is the feedback that can be collected predominantly from the phone system, right? So gone are the days when you're supposed to give feedback on a very detailed form, that you have to fill in and stuff like that. So you can just pick up the phone and, on Alt Recruit, you can just click on the record button and say that, hey, it was good talking to Sneha. Maybe 10 years later, we can hire Sneha as a CFO. And I can record that and I can save that recording, and that would be available for a recruiter on the back end to really take up the decision. So those are the kind of things that we've built on Alt Recruit. Again, a very tall order and promise, because most of the time, if you look at and once you get into those work experience, you'll realize recruitments don't really follow a process on a technology platform. So we are saying that, okay, we are promising this to the recruiters, that you don't have to leave the technology platform at all as you're going to log in. So those are the combinations that we are trying to work out for different kind of hirings. Actually, as we're going multi-country, there are different requirements coming out for multi-countries as well. So we are able to pack it all that in that one instance, and that's really serving the purpose. I don't know, Sneha, if you have any specific question, maybe I can answer that, but I don't know if it answers your question.
I understood. I had another question based on that. Like, I had a doubt. You talked about the real check on social profile. So, can you please elaborate on this? And another is that normally when we have virtual interviews, there's a lot of chance of impersonation or lip syncing. So, what are the things has Alt Recruit done something in this way?
So the platform that we're using for video interview, they also have elements of proctoring, by the way. So technology is evolving at a very fast level, which means, when you give your IIT, JEE or any online examinations, there are proctoring happening on the system directly, right? So the technology that we are working with has an element of capturing bursts of photographs on regular frequency without telling you when it is capturing those pictures, right? Now it is really difficult when you build technologies like this to really dupe it out. But yeah, of course, there are people, the way they do it out as well. So we have created some kind of process framework. So for an example, if somebody has to register into an interview, there is a phone-based auto authentication, just the way you do it on any kind of an Ola platform or an Uber platform. You get a phone authentication there itself, right? So those are the ways that we have used those authentication mechanism and proctoring mechanism to really solve that problems of impersonations and stuff like that.
Thank you very much, sir, for your answer. A lot of questions coming in from Sneha. We'll try to squeeze in the two questions that we have. We do have a paucity of time. The next question comes from Miss Moiraki Dotto. Moiraki, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Hmm.
So, sir, I have a question that it has been observed that workplaces will undergo massive changes in HR policies. So, how can HR tech help address employee concerns on workplace policies and also review of current welfare policies?
See, this has accelerated itself, and I would not claim that I'm an expert on this, but the way all our lives have changed in the last 3 months, there is definitely a lot on the policy change that is going to happen, right? So, policy related to time, policy related to productivity, policy related to performance, policy related to pay. All of that is going to change because you're now not expected to work 9 hours. You can have an upcoming gig work, the style of work that you can work on. The way you're going to spend your time is going to be very different. So you can imagine all those policies going a sea change in the next 1 or 2 years as organizations try to adopt themselves, right? Now, when you have changes happening at such a massive scale, again, you need technology interventions, right? So, what technologies do you use? Do you use technology platforms like bots? So, you and me could be chatting. You might think that you're trying to chat with me or trying to get an assistance from an HR manager, but you usually it would be like a bot that would be responding to you on any policy changes. So we have a bot mechanism called Genie. Genie is the bot mechanism that we have. Whatever policy changes that we have, we just feed it to Genie. Now, Genie is a natural language processing engine. It studies these documents. It has a good memory, unlike human memory. It understands who it is responding a particular query to, right? It tries to solve a particular problem, but if it is not able to solve a particular problem, it connects it to an HR person, a real live HR person to solve it. As that live person solves that particular problem, the Genie bot platform really learns it real time. Okay, what is the response that is gone to solve this particular ticket or solve this particular problem, right? And in real time, learn it back so that if there is a similar query that comes up later, the bot is ready to answer that particular question. All of this is happening real time, by the way, and technology is available to really solve that particular problem. So, two questions to your answer, Mayuraki. One is that there will be a policy change that would happen at a very, very massive speed, and it has to be enabled by technology. Technologies like a bot platform or a chat platform or a natural language processing engine can really help solve it.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really insightful.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll be having the last question for the evening. It will be coming from Ms. Shweta Mishra. Shweta, you can go ahead and mute yourself and ask the question, please.
Thanks, Anindya. Hello, Kiran sir. So we have all heard about the challenges that organizations are facing during this COVID outbreak. So one such challenge is the crisis management or business continuity planning that HR leaders are facing. So how would you rate the HR leaders on the crisis management or business continuity planning? Also, it would be really grateful if you could share your views on the same, especially for the organizations in Asia.
Organizations in Asia, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I would actually be predicting, if I have to answer this, if I have to answer this question correctly, the crisis is not yet over. So, pretty much the results on how they've been able to do it, not been able to do it, is really, out for everyone to gauge it. But of all the interactions that I have, been doing with a lot of my potential customers across India and Southeast Asia, I think there is a significant amount of adoption and adaptability that I'm able to see to the crisis. So definitely, the scale of the crisis is very unprecedented, but the crisis itself is not unprecedented, right? So people are taking a lot of lessons that they would have learned in their previous kind of session. So, if you ask me, within my working life, this is the second time I'm going through a recession. There's one recession that happened in 2008 and 9. This is the second recession that we are going, that in my lifetime, in my work lifetime, that we are going through, right? Now, some of the learnings that I have learned in that, I'm trying to apply that here on the basics part of it, right? So if you really try to look at, I think the real decision making is done by the HR community, but the decision is actually an enablement to the main business decisions that are done by the business. So either a CEO or a CFO or a sales head, the way they look at their businesses, HR is a strong enabler to do that, right? So I think there are a lot of new cases coming out there, but I would be really predicting to say how HR would have been to do to really come out of this particular crisis. But there are a lot many things, like for an example, organizational safety and security, how they have been able to manage that, changing of work policy, how they've been able to do that, uh, pushing people to really bring them onto the cusp of really adopting new technology. Again, I will give that credit to HR on how they have been able to do that. Working out severance packages, by the way, it's a crisis situation, so working out innovative severance packages so that people are not really hit by the crisis, and at the same time they're able to draw a balance between organizational financial dynamics and the individual employee and the overall brand of the company, are some very complex problem that HR is solving today, and it's on the forefront, and I see that happening cutting across India and Southeast Asia.
Thank you, sir. It was very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that answer, sir. I think that brings us to the end of the webinar. Before we go ahead with the vote of thanks, we would like to take closing comments from you and Savita ma'am. If you go ahead, please.
Okay, Savita ma'am, I think you're on mute if you're saying something.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say that it's been really wonderful to have interacted with you. And I'm sure all of us have learned a lot from you, and we'll take it forward. And so I'd like to thank you personally, as well as on behalf of all of our students and our school. So that's all I wanted to say, because you've said so much, and it's so meaningful, that tremendous learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. I just want to sign off on a very good note. I know that we are all in crisis mode right now. So first of all, I would want to take an opportunity to really thank Savita ma'am. Thank you so very much. Anindya and team, I think the way you've been managing with us, professionally managing this, so thanks to you for all the support. I just want to sign off on a positive note that it is a crisis time, but at the same time, it is a time of a great opportunity building as well, right? So make use of this opportunity. Try to invent and maybe learn something new, and really come out the curve. Figure out a way how each one of you could be absolutely be useful, because some of the things that would have come in a very easy way may not come your way, but that does not mean that you're not entitled for it. So on that note, all the very best to all of you, and a big thanks to you, Savita ma'am, for really taking out the opportunity and making it really full of warmth and love. Thank you. Really appreciate
Indeed, my pleasure. Indeed, my
Thank,
pleasure.
thank you very much, Kiran sir and Savita ma'am for joining in. We indeed learned a lot from Kiran sir today. We learned about productivity, we learned about experience, the data, the real-time management, and how essentially technology is coming to the forefront, and that will write the new code of work for HR.
Wow.
We would like to thank Kiran sir for taking time out of his busy schedule and coming and enlightening the students essentially. We'd also like to thank Professor Savita Mohanty for taking out time and for moderating the webinar. We would also like to thank Ms. Rajat and Ms. Kamakshi from the PeopleStrong team for associating with us and for helping us in organizing this webinar. And last but not the least, we'd also thank Team Illuminatis and of course Team Zimar, the HR Association of XIM, for partnering with us for making this event successful. I thank you all for joining in and tuning into this episode of ConeXus, and we look forward to having you again on campus, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
God
Take care.
bless. See
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.